Hi, I'm Michelle Sterling for Friends of Science Society. Ecojustice tried to get the Alberta Inquiry into the tar sands campaign quashed, but they lost in court. According to the written statement of the judge, the Alberta Inquiry had to provide documentation to show her that there was true cause for the inquiry, and Steve Allan himself had to do lengthy preparation and present evidence to counter claims by Ecojustice that he was not the right person for the job, or that his appointment was one of partisan political favoritism. This extra work by the inquiry staff and commissioner appears to explain the further delay and extension of the inquiry. Following the news of Ecojustice's loss in court and the subsequent extension of the inquiry, a handful of people piled on the inquiry. Well, Parker Gallant is very good at tracking the climate connections, and he's come up with a doozy that helps explain where these folks are really coming from. Remember, Ecojustice lost in court, so it appears that now they're trying to win in the court of public opinion by proxy. One of the repeated arguments made by these critics of the Alberta Inquiry is the approximate $3 million in costs. Some people say this is wasted tax dollars. So let's look at where your tax dollars have already gone. Donna Kennedy-Glans is an advisor to the Energy Futures Lab, which is a project of the Natural Step Canada, which is, as Parker Gallant writes, an arm of an international agency, and they're going full bore on climate change. The Natural Step is located at the same address as Smart Prosperity. Stuart Elgee is a director of the Natural Step. Stuart Elgee founded Ecojustice and Smart Prosperity. Martin Olszynski is a fellow of Smart Prosperity. The Smart Prosperity Institute, which Stuart Elgee founded, is within the University of Ottawa and includes at least 5 government funders, so presumably received lots of taxpayer dollars. However, they don't disclose or publish financial statements. Parker Gallant reviewed the federal government's search websites for grants and contracts, and he found 2 contracts awarded to Smart Prosperity in 2020 and 2021 for approximately $86,000, and 1 grant in 2020 for $380,000. So Parker Gallant writes that a quick review of federal government contracts discloses that the Natural Step received 4 contracts with a value of about $110,000 over the past few years and 4 grants of about $775,000. So when one looks at the CRA filings for the Natural Step, they fail to disclose the foregoing facts about receiving those funds from the federal government. So Elgee is also part of the Canadian Institute for Climate Choices, which received a grant of 20 million tax dollars. The Canadian Institute for Climate Choices is a reformation of what used to be the Eco-Fiscal Commission. The group advocates for net zero, carbon pricing, so-called clean energy, and of course, the phase out of fossil fuels. So my point is that you have this very well-connected, non-democratic, tax-funded entities who are taking millions of dollars from the tax pool to advocate for policies that are destroying one of Canada's leading income-earning sectors, the oil, gas, and oil sands sector. And then these same tax-funded climate activists claim via proxies that the Alberta Inquiry is wasting taxpayers' money. My guess is that they don't want any evidence released about how hard some people have worked to put you out of work and destroy your children's future. In 2009, the Alberta oil sands was projected to create employment growth in Canada from 75,000 jobs in 2010 to 905,000 jobs, almost 1 million jobs by 2035. The Alberta oil sands would have generated $2.1 trillion in economic stimulus over 25 years from 2010 to 2035. The development of the Alberta oil sands would have contributed $105 billion to provincial taxes and over $311 billion in federal taxes, and the collection of over $350 billion in royalties from 2010 to 2035. But instead, the tar sands campaign destroyed that future for Albertans and Canadians. And now some of the parties don't even want you to find out who was behind it, what they did, where the money came from, and maybe even why. Well, to me, there's an obvious green trade war going on, sometimes using soft or hard coercion to force companies or institutions like banks to comply with these green badgers. But in a free and democratic society, banks should not have to play ball with radical environmental groups that are intentionally destroying the reputations of the banks and their energy clients. Insurance companies should not have to kowtow to radical environmental groups on what companies they insure, especially when those companies are providing essential energy and resource services. And certainly, taxpayers should never have to fund these groups that are hogging up the taxpayer dough at the Great Green Trough in Ottawa. The Alberta Inquiry is a small price to pay to find out more about the foreign-funded tar sands campaign and the domestic participants who have helped destroy our economy. Our 17th annual event was entitled Freedom of Speech, No Climate Emergency, and Speaker Donna Laframboise was right when she said that climate activism is stifling our freedoms. And Dr. Roy Spencer showed that there's no climate emergency. So these two events are now available for free on our website, and they both show that climate activism is not speaking the truth about climate change, which means the tar sands campaign was a false narrative from the get-go. The only question now is who should pay for the economic and human carnage caused by foreign-funded saboteurs. Let's see if the Allan Inquiry will tell us that. For Friends of Science Society, I'm Michelle Sterling.